Amber Coon. She is a member of Syracuse Animal Rights Organization who does a lot to a lot of different campaigns in the city and elsewhere about animal rights issues that focus on things like factory farming, which is relevant to this topic. So what this addresses, why should food be important to the Occupy movement? Well, if you look at our declaration, there's 2 points in there that speak to this very issue, and I will read them out to you. The first one states, they have poisoned the food supply through negligence and undermined the farming system through monopolization. The second one is, they have profited off the torture, confinement, and cruel treatment of countless animals and actively hide these practices. So what do these things mean? Well, I'm going to get into a little bit of that and start with the first one, about food monopolization. Right now, there's a handful of corporations that pretty much control the food supply in the United States and abroad. To come as really no surprise to anyone. I mean, they're common names that everyone knows. Some of these corporations are Pepsi. Last year, Pepsi made $44 billion. That's quite a lot. And they own brands such as Gatorade, Propel, Sobe, Frito-Lay, Quaker, Tazo Tea. Other big corporations, Dole. You should all know who Dole is. They make the fruit. General Mills brought in $14 billion last year. General Mills owns Betty Crocker, Pillsbury, Yoplait, Green Giant, and organic brands such as Cascadian Farms, Muir Glen, and Larbar. Nestle, who is probably one of the biggest food corporations on the planet, they made about $110 billion last year. And aside from candies and all that, Nestle seems to own a lot of different pizza companies. I don't know why. Strange. And Kraft being a very huge one as well. Who owns the Boca brand, Tostitos, Ritz, Wheat Thins, 100 different brands. And then there's not so well-known food companies that actually control a really huge portion of what we eat and where our food comes from. They don't really put their name on a lot of things. Sometimes they do, but other times they don't. They're not as well known. But there's groups like Cargill. They own they ship 25% of all U.S. grains produced, and grain exports, I should say. Strangely enough, they also deal in financial risk management, which is kind of a big thing with what Occupy is focusing on. They also supply all of McDonald's eggs, as well as 22% of all meat produced in the USA. Another big one, you probably heard of this one, Tyson. Tyson is the largest meat producer in the world. They supply KFC, McDonald's, Taco Bell, Burger King, Wendy's, Walmart, and prisons, strangely enough. And then the other huge one, or one more huge one, is ConAgra. ConAgra, they own Banquet, Nabisco, over 100 brands. And they deal a lot in poultry and grain feed for farms. The other huge one I'm going to focus on a little bit later is Monsanto. That's a really big food kind of business.
It's the most dangerous one.
One of the most dangerous ones as well. I'll get back to that in a little bit. So what's the problem with these huge corporations running all our food? So the problem has to deal with worker treatment, foreclosures on small farms, and GMO foods. So I'm going to get into some of that. What's that? I will. I'll get to GMO, what that is. So, first of all, we'll deal with the small farmer. Farming used to be probably one of the biggest fields of employment in the United States, as recent as 40, 50 years ago. Since then, a lot of small farms that supplied locally to their own families, to their own community, started getting bought out and monopolized by bigger companies. What was happening is these bigger companies would go in and what they tend to do is they say, oh, you got pigs or you have cows. Well, we're from Tyson. We want to use your cows for our factories. We want to use their meat. So what they do is they give them all this equipment and all these supplies, and they say, you have to do it our way. And, you know, any loss you incur, that's your fault. You know, that's on you. It's not on us. But we expect you to produce X amount, you know, in this amount of time using these specific means. And, you know, some buy into it, and others who don't, they get pushed out. They'll say, oh, if you're not going to do it, well, we'll just go to the next farmer down the road, and he's going to put you out of business, more or less. So a lot of farmers are facing these realities, these big companies coming in and telling them, why don't you sign with us, sign a contract with us, but you have to do it our way. A huge company that does this is Monsanto. Monsanto, what their big thing is GMO foods, these genetically modified organisms, and different ways of harvesting organisms. Genetically modified organisms means anything that you can plant, such as like corn, grain, anything, but the DNA in it is changed in a way that is either resistant to crop diseases, or it has a prettier color, or it you know, keeps away locusts or something like that. But one of the big problems with that is that there's not much research done on these GMO foods. We don't really know if they're safe or not. And the FDA has gone right ahead and approved so many of them. And Monsanto also makes a product called Roundup. It's a type of pesticide type. Herbicide, sorry. A type of herbicide. And it's even been banned in Denmark. Denmark has full out banned it because they feel it's unsafe, it's contaminated the water, they don't believe in it. The catch is, you have to use Monsanto products in order to use, you have to use their seeds. They make their own seeds. You have to use their seeds in conjunction with their Roundup. So it's like this vicious cycle that they have to keep using it. And what they're doing is they're going around and they're suing other farmers for a breach of contract, saying, well, we sold this farmer down the road these seeds, and now they're showing up in your you know, the same type of crops that arise from these seeds are showing up in your farm. You're using our product without a contract.
They actually have a patent on their seeds.
That's right, they have patents on their seeds, and they're suing small farmers, intimidating them. And a lot of farmers, they just settle because they don't have the money to go to court for these things. What's really happening is natural ways that seeds are carried, whether through the wind or from birds. Birds peck at the crops and carry the seeds, or, you know, poop them out in another field or whatever. So there's no way to really control this, but yet Monsanto is getting their way. They're getting their way in the courts and all that from these seeds. They've also developed a technology called terminator seeds. Terminator seeds are, for instance, you go and plant a tomato. That tomato grows, and you get a tomato out there, and it's got 50 more seeds, and you take those seeds out and you plant them again, and you get more tomatoes. That's the way agriculture's been done for 10,000 years. Monsanto's developed a technology where you plant a seed, it grows, but all the seeds within the fruit are sterile. So you have to always buy new seeds from them every year. And they're trying, they've said that they've developed it, but they're not doing anything with it. But, you know, you hear from these other countries such as India and Iraq, and these places are getting really, really pushed upon by these big corporations, and they tell a different story. So Monsanto's they're pretty evil. They're pretty evil.
There's a lot of states in this country that actually ban you from keeping those seeds from yourself.
Yes.
Heirloom seeds are disappearing.
Seed saving. Yeah, it's disappearing, which is a shame because, again, that's how agriculture has been maintained for 10,000 years. I feel like if I tell this story, it might not actually be true, but there is a grain of truth to it. After our invasion of Iraq and after the U.S. went in and started rebuilding, and all the corporations came in to say, you know, we'll help you with this, we're going to build on that. I've heard that there was things written into the new Iraqi constitution that say, like, you have to go with these corporations, or you have to use Monsanto seeds. I mean, this is the birthplace of civilization, you know, the Fertile Crescent, and telling them they can't save their seeds anymore. It's ridiculous. It's a huge issue in India where farmers are a very big part of the economy, and they're getting pushed out. They're getting their crops dictated to them, and so many Indian farmers are committing suicide because they can't deal with it. They can't deal with the financial pressure. Their crops are failing. It's not working out for them. The system has been kind of tough. So I feel like I got a little sidetracked. Issues with farming too. Factory farming. Factory farming is a practice that is used by most, I guess, meat-producing companies. Thank you. Meat-producing farms. Cows, chicken, pigs, all that. Factory farming is the practice of taking, it's not your average family farm, not your like 10, 20 cows or whatever. This is these giant sheds that contain upwards of 50,000 chickens per shed, kept in little cages that they can't even turn around in. It's a pretty miserable existence. Cows, they deal with this cycle of constantly being impregnated, the female cows, having their newborns taken away from them, used for veal, and the female cows are used as more or less milk machines until they are worn out and then they just die. It's a pretty miserable existence, and it leads to a lot of environmental problems, a lot of environmental issues and worker issues. As far as environmental issues go, you have these giant, huge sheds that are filled with chicken shit and cow shit. I mean, that's ammonia. It's dangerous. It's toxic, you know. And in a moment, I'd ask you to speak on the duck farm and what you encountered. So you have these giant sheds that reek, and they're filled with thousands upon thousands of animals. It's cramped conditions. It leads to disease. It leads to overcrowding, stress, all sorts of other issues that basically get carried on to the consumer, because these animals are in overcrowded situations. They're getting sick, so they're getting pumped full of antibiotics. Well, these antibiotics only work for so long, because then a resistance builds. The disease builds resistance, and they need stronger antibiotics. When they kill the animal and make it into chicken or whatever for you, these antibiotics end up in the food. And which may sound like a good thing for humans. Oh, I get antibiotics in my food. But no, because then disease that would infect people, that disease builds up resistance, and so on and so forth. It just builds up and up and up. Furthermore, you get these, they need a place to put all the poop, more or less. So a lot of these farms are building these giant manure lagoons on their property that often tend to be close to river systems, close to bodies of water. And they get into the groundwater, this sewage, this manure leaks into the groundwater, and then you end up getting polluted water. And every once in a while, one of these lagoons more or less breaks or overflows, and you get a big mess on your hands. It's a big environmental problem. I'm going to ask Amber to speak for a moment. She actually went to a foie gras farm down in downstate New York. Foie gras is a